Why was this figure easier to find than RC Generations?
Hello, my baby! Hello, my honey! Hello, my ragtime gal! Sonny, you kissed my wife! Baby, my heart's on fire!
Today we are reviewing the Takara Tomy repaint of Generations Arcee, Nightbird. This is what the package looks like. So that way, if you're ever in Japan or thereabouts, you can see it on the shelf and know that it's the genuine article. It doesn't have the usual stuff on the back that they have for the American version. It's got, I don't know, an advertisement for some sort of tie-wearing rat.
Oh, that's Rat Trap. Yeah, the Legends comics can get a little weird at times.
Who are you and what are you doing in my aesthetic realm?
Oh, if you must know, I am Dr. Lockdown. I have a PhD in toy reviewing. Pleasure to make your acquaintance, physical embodiment of dying.
Dr. Lockdown? I am not scheduled to reap you for another 2 weeks. Well, anywho, what are you doing here?
Well, I was looking through my old Transformers toys and came across Supreme Class Devastator. I was in such a shock that I think I'm having an out-of-body experience. So I guess we should review this until I wake up.
Alright, just try not to muss up the joint. The Takara Tomy Nightbird figure is a remold of Generations Arcee, and it is based on the 1980s Generation 1 cartoon episode of the Transformers titled Enter the Nightbird. In this episode, the Autobots are asked to provide security for one Dr. Fujiyama, a robotics expert, while he unveils his greatest creation, a coincidentally Transformer-sized version of a giant female robot ninja. Naturally, the press was skeptical.
Why build a robot ninja, Doctor? Isn't that rather dangerous?
Nightbird has been constructed to demonstrate to the world the limitless capabilities of technology. She will expand the horizons of robotic research to assist mankind and not to harm him. I assure you, gentlemen, she is not meant for battle or assassinations.
Had I been there, the press conference would have been substantially different and much more sensible. Excuse me, Dr. Fujiyama, why build a giant 20-foot-tall female ninja robot? Isn't that kind of stupid?
Perhaps to the unlearned it may seem so, Mr. Death.
It seems pretty stupid to me, Dr. Fujiyama. Are you saying I'm unlearned? Dr. Fujiyama, you say that this giant ninja robot was not made for combat. Why then does it have all of that weaponry strapped to its body? Would you please explain to us, Dr. Fujiyama, how exactly all of that weaponry will be used for the benefit of mankind?
This press conference is over.
Anyway, the Autobots fail miserably in their guard duties. The Decepticons make off with Nightbird, reprogram her, and use her for battle and for assassinations and for the detriment of all mankind. Eventually, the Autobots get Nightbird back, deprogram her, and return her to Dr. Fujiyama, who immediately launches his plan to demonstrate to the entire world the benefits of his robotic ninja by saying that she will be
Safely locked up forever.
Anywho, now we finally have an action figure from Takara Tomy based on that episode. And it only took them 30 years. As you see, she is a Cybertronian-style car, although this looks more like something that the Jetsons might have driven around in.
The figure itself looks nice from the top, despite its simplicity, and the RC mold kind of fits this character with these colours. I don't actually mind the wheels that much, as they've got enough clearance to roll properly.
They're just little more than tiny plastic discs. It's the sort of thing that you would expect to find in a McDonald's Happy Meal as opposed to a Transformers Deluxe figure. The wheels don't let the figure roll very well unless you mash down to gain some friction.
Maybe it would roll better if you didn't use a surface covered in cobwebs. Just saying.
You mean there are surfaces that don't have cobwebs?
The guns store well, and I don't mind the fact that you have to keep the pistol in to keep the hands from flailing about as much as I did when I first got the figure. It's an interesting idea that helps keep the arms clean of kibble. The melee weapons, though. There's no good way to store these. They barely peg in properly anywhere, and there's no good way to display them well. Every option looks super dumb. The only good way seems to be to use the ninja blades, or whatever they're called. I'm sure some weapons nerds will correct me in the comments section.
They're called scythes.
But they ruin the rolling action, and it just doesn't work. Okay, what I'm going to do is summarize the transformation, as I'm sure Grimmy over there has gone into enough detail. The transformation seems a little uninspired to me. It's basically a shell attached to a transformer, and although the robot parts do go through some mass shifting, it's pretty much only to allow the car to roll properly. In short, you fold out the robot bits and fold away the car bits.
No, that sums it up pretty well. It's a shell former with limited limb integration. I would add this one piece of advice for starting the transformation with regards to the gun that is plugged into the hole at the base. The pistol accessory can sometimes wedge very tightly into the hole down here. It is best to take a very thin screwdriver to fulcrum it loose from its hole, so that you do not risk snapping any of the parts.
Despite a pretty bland transformation, the robot mode is not too shabby. If you ignore the back part entirely, it's pretty much perfect in terms of proportions. Thing is, you really can't ignore it. The fact that it's black in comparison to the rest of the figure does act as an eye trick to hide it from view, but it's not a very good one. The paint's pretty good though, with a nice shiny finish. The upper arms can be a bit of an eyesore from some angles, but from most it's not too bad.
It translates surprisingly well into its Generation 1 animation model, except for the very large backpack. It shares the same strengths and weaknesses as Generations Arcee, as well as the same level of articulation, with a ball-socketed head that will rotate 360 degrees if you don't want to risk snapping it. There are ball-socketed shoulders. The figure bends at the elbow. There is a bicep swivel. There is no waist articulation. The legs will rotate back and forward and swivel in and out slightly, although the way that the hinge is set up limits some of the motion and mobility. But Nightbird will also bend at the knee 90 degrees. There is a knee rotation and a heel foot tilt. You can plug the weapons into holes on the sides of her arms and the sides of her thighs, as well as holding them in her hands.
The weapons Nightbird comes with are all kind of stupid, well except the ninja blades. They look cool whether on her arm or in her hand due to their shaping. Meanwhile, these other swords that originally came with Arcee are dumb. I'm getting a serious Energon weapon vibe from this. It didn't work then and it doesn't work now. The guns aren't much help either. While they look fine, they don't fully slot into the hands. While the rifle looks okay on the arm, the pistol just looks like it would blow her knuckles off. And considering how she needs those for ninja blades, I'd be a little bit careful.
Weapons can also be stored in 2 peg holes underneath the car headlights, so that you can reach behind and grab them out like a ninja. Those who are fortunate enough to own the Wheeljack Transformers Prime figure may take his sword weapons and use them for Nightbird as well. They don't fit very neatly into the hands, but it still looks a darn sight cooler than those ugly yellow ones that they gave with the figure. In addition to her other accessories, the Nightbird figure also contains this booklet from Takara Tomy, which profiles the character, has the instructions, and also some sort of comic book, which if you are lucky enough to be able to read Japanese, I'm sure you would find extremely diverting.
Okay, so I don't speak Japanese, but from what I can see in the comic and from TF Wiki summaries, Nightbird is basically just a ninja robot like in G1. The only difference is she's a maid robot who tries to take over the world but fails due to a built-in klutz mechanic that makes her adorable in the Pinky and the Brain kind of way. Apparently it sells toys in the comic universe, I don't know. Way to go, Japan, reducing one of your most mysterious characters in G1 to fan service. Okay, just kidding. You're awesome, Japan. Moe Windblade is the best.
You can get a little more splay out of the legs if you accordion out the transformation joint slightly, and if you don't mind exposing the ball and socket underneath, it will allow her to splay her legs wider for more impressive ninja stances. They did some remolding work on the Nightbird figure. She has a different head sculpt. They also remolded the chestal area to be more in line with the Generation 1 cartoon model. The RC figure has excellent light piping, and that was carried over to the Nightbird figure, although her light piping is a yellow.
One thing to note about the light piping, it's got that weird Takara thing where they use completely clear plastic and then put ink on the top of it. This intensifies the effect, which is something only more expensive paint jobs can achieve. Thankfully it works better here than on Slipstream, who had a similar job done but it didn't come out so good.
For size comparison, here is Takara's Nightbird next to Generations leader Megatron.
For size comparison, she's a little small for a deluxe figure, and a little short next to Mastermind Creation Salvia Promenon. But that's not a fair comparison considering the pure awesomeness of Solus Prime!
The Takara Nightbird figure suffers only from the same issues that Arcee suffers. Namely, some of the joints are thin and weak, the wheels are tiny, there is no waist articulation, and the figure has almost too many weapon accessories for its own good.
Sadly, I'm gonna have to go with only 3 stars. The mold itself makes this a decent robot and a decent car, but not a good transformer in general. I do recommend getting this if you're a fan of the character, as it doesn't disappoint on that level. The paint's good, and on a better figure it would easily be 4 or 5 stars, but the design itself is a little flawed. And if the rumours of a masterpiece RC are true, then I'm sure the future will bring us a figure with less of a backpack.
You done here?
Yes, I am, because I think I'm finally waking up now. So long, until we meet again someday. I know you'll catch up.
Catch you on the flip side. For my part, I give the Takara Nightbird figure 8 deaths up. And I will now add Nightbird to my collection, where she will be
Safely locked up forever.
If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone, oh baby. Tell them all and tell me I'm your own.